The absolute state of unfinished AAA game releases by Nasu.
Have you ever been playing a game and it just... perhaps it hits you with a bit of... maybe even a little...
Definitely had all of this happen before.
Then you might be entitled to nothing. Hold this L.
What is that? The other clip was Cyberpunk, Fallout 76. Are there any other games that came out that were as widely loathed for their launch status than, like, say, or as Fallout 76 and Cyberpunk? Those were like the two big ones in the last like decade. No Man's Sky. Oh yeah, No Man's Sky was rough. There was just nothing to do. And then you get back to the center and there was nothing there. Yeah. Final Fantasy 14 definitely had a rough one. It even shut the game down and rebooted it. Yeah. Yeah.
Video games have come a long way since the days of Pong and text-based adventure games. 9 console generations and over $1 trillion in revenue later, the games industry has grown bigger than both the film and music industries combined.
Yeah, that's a little factoid I love to spit out myself is that it's the games industry. Nobody really thinks about how big the games industry is. But it's bigger than film and music combined. Like, so it used to be like, if you're a gamer, you're like an outcast, you're a nerd. Like, now you are the dominant species, man. We are everywhere. And there is a ton of money. There's a ton of money being made. Most people don't care. Pokemon had tons of issues and still sold a ton. It's much more accepted now, right? I think that's what this video is going to be about. It's just how common it is. PC, we had Minecraft. Twitch, a video streaming service primarily for games, is launched.
Fine. More people are playing games than ever, and more games are being made. Everybody's grandma and grandpa knows what a Mario the Hedgehog is. We got companies like Netflix trying to start their own game studios. Hollywood won't stop making video game adaptations, with all the money pouring into...
True. And they're actually good video game adaptations. Like The Witcher has been phenomenal. Last of Us has been amazing. There's not a Tetris show. No way. Really? What is a Tetris TV show going to be about? Is it a movie or a TV show? That's just like, I told you about that. There's a Tetris movie. Is it about the game Tetris, or is it like a Tetris movie? You know what I mean? Like, are you in the world of Tetris, or is it just like a documentary? The Origin. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like the Witcher has a movie. There was gonna be like a Tetris one. Did Riddick start off as the original Xbox game first? Riddick? I don't think so. Riddick came out in like the late 90s, like 1999. Was a movie first? Yeah. Pitch Black was great. Pitch Black was amazing. When it first came out, like nobody knew who what's his name was, Vin Diesel. Like nobody knew who he was at the time. And that movie came out and it was just phenomenal. It was like way better than it should have been.
To the industry, greatly improved hardware and software, game studios are able to produce ambitious high-budget projects that never could have been made before. And with every gaming platform having an internet connection, they can continue to update their games to patch out any bugs after release. But despite all these advancements, it seems like we've been getting more and more games released with game-breaking bugs and missing content. Well, the thing is, these advancements are the exact reason why. Before the internet...
Yeah, it's kind of like what we were saying at the very beginning is just like, it's definitely because they can, right? Why does it happen? Because they can. Because they know they no longer have to finish a game before they launch it. So like when the deadline comes, they used to have to be like, well, we need to push it back or we have to push it back. Now they're just like, oh, we'll just launch it. We'll fix it in a patch, day one, the day one patch.
Internet became a core facet of gaming. If a studio dropped an unfinished game, that game stayed unfinished. Loading screens taking an ungodly amount of time? Get comfortable, you got a lot of waiting ahead of you. fighting game has a single character that's better than every other fighter and completely breaks the game's balance, I hope you like mirror matchups. If a game launched in a poor state, that became the game's legacy, and there's no better example than Sonic 06.
You know what's really impressive? Like Smash Brothers 64 in that way. Like that is a game that was made and balanced one time 30 years ago, and there's still tournaments where the meta is constantly shifting in that game, where people are constantly choosing new characters to win tournaments. It's crazy. Like just the like for the meta to evolve constantly over 30 years, like that is insane. Can you imagine having to get the balance that right on the first try for a game like that? The last game you remember releasing unfinished without patches was Fable. Fable was a good game though, man. Fable was a great game. Yeah, Fable I loved. One of the first like Western RPGs that I played, because I played like Secret of Mana and Final Fantasy games and stuff like that before that.
06.
Sonic.
What was originally intended to be a series reboot and a return to form for Sonic is instead remembered as the worst game in the series, if not one of the worst games of all time.
I didn't play this one.
Unintuitive physics, shoddy cutscenes, unbearable loading screens, questionable writing, bad dialogue, and countless bugs make the game nearly unplayable. The game wasn't just bad, it was incomplete and in desperate need of more time in development. It's not that they weren't aware of the game's issues, I mean, they were the one making it. But as a for-profit business, game devs will always be a slave to the almighty deadline. And Sonic 06 had a deadline that Sega wasn't willing to budge on. The 7th generation of home consoles had just dropped, and the game was scheduled for a holiday release. Side note, if you ever see a game drop riddled with bugs, just
it's always holiday releases. It's always, dude, it's always the holiday releases. You know, when they just want it so bad and then they'll release anything to hit a holiday deadline. They repeated the mistake with Sonic Boom. Magically bad was very good. Potent comment. Yeah. It says a lot about it, doesn't it?
Just take a look at the calendar. Chances are you're in the last few months of the year where Santa's tax return finally hits and he rides around dropping copies of whatever game just dropped down everyone's chimney. Sega needed that game out on all consoles by the end of 2006, but the Nintendo Wii wasn't powerful enough to play it, so Sonic Team was split in two, with one half being tasked with creating an entirely different game for the Wii, further hurting the development of Sonic 06. 2 years of developers working insane crunch hours later, and this is what we got. This actually wasn't even the first time a Sonic game spawned two separate titles. 1994's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic and Knuckles.
Like that's the hard part about the low performance console market that Nintendo's kind of carved out for itself, is like you see all these ports now going from the high-end consoles, and then they release that port onto like the Wii or now the Switch, and it just doesn't run well. The frame rate's awful. Like there's just always problems. It seems like they're really making a headache out of like just trying to make that transition. I like the dude couldn't get a calendar image that didn't have a watermark. I know, no F's given. I've done it myself though in a YouTube video and just like yeet.
Were originally supposed to be one game, but were split so that Sega could have the first game meet a deadline. Sonic and Knuckles was later released as a companion piece to Sonic 3 that could be attached to the cartridge to unlock the full game.
Dude, you guys remember stacking cartridges like this? I think I did it once, like for my like it was the cheat one where it had like all the cheats on it. You could buy the one that and it unlocked all these things, and like I think I had it for like GoldenEye, or it was the Game Genie. Yeah, and you just stack or Game Shark, something like that. Yeah, dude. And then in GoldenEye, like I could do all this crazy stuff all the time that I wasn't normally able to do. Yeah. That was Game Shark? Oh, okay.
This was one of the first instances of what would come to be known as DLC. While DLC makes for a great way to add new content to a finished game, it can't really be used to polish a game that was broken on release. Nah, to do that, they gotta re-release the whole game. Introducing the Definitive Edition. If a
Oh my
full-price
God.
AAA game launches as a buggy, unfinished mess, just re-release the finished game a couple years later at the same price. This wasn't always done just to fix bugs. Oftentimes, game studios would add new content or quality of life changes that honestly should have been there in the first.
How many versions of Skyrim have been released now? And which one of you has every single one? We need to have a conversation. You guys need to stop buying those, okay? So that they make the next one. They're never going to make it. You keep buying it. We were cheaters back then. Now you do it and you lose your whole game library. Well, it wasn't. It was you know, it was a single player game. So you weren't really, it was like entering a cheat code now, you know? You actually had to explain to someone else. There's like 7+. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. The best version was Skyrim Alexa. Yeah. Bethesda lied to us about the first half of 2023 Starfield release. If it's not out before June starts. Yeah, they did say first half at some point, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they push it back. Or even lose a whole save or break the game. Yeah. They're definitely going to push it back. You think so? I don't think they would want to launch it on top of ESO's expansion. I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know, but you know, and also don't think they want to launch on top of Diablo 4. You know, that's a big shadow that's going to cast on the games industry. They don't care? Maybe. I think they do. Let's see.
First place. This practice was popularized by Nintendo's Pokemon games, which would drop a third definitive title for each generation after their initial dual releases. Since these were updated versions and not sequels, there was little reason to buy the older games after the third one drops. This trend was incredibly egregious with fighting games that oftentimes relied on DLC characters for their longevity. Companies would release their game, drip feed players content through DLC, and then eventually release a definitive version of the game with all the DLC as a big you to.
I don't mind like when games release like definitive versions where like the game's been out for 5 years and they've released 5 years of DLCs. And then a game will say, okay, here's the definitive version where you can just, we're done making DLC. You buy this, you get all the game and all the DLCs. I think that's cool. Like I like that. I don't mind that at all. I've taken advantage of that for a lot of games where like there was a Dark Souls game where I bought it and I bought the definitive version because I was buying it on PC. And it came with like all of the previous DLC. So it was nice. I like that package. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. Yeah, it's great if you're willing to wait. Well, it's if you're willing to wait, or like if you just, it's nice. Like if it sometimes it's not enticing enough on day one, but then like later you're looking for something to play and you go, oh man, you could get the game and all the DLCs for that price. Okay, that's worth it. You know, that's nice. Or like if you're switching platforms, which just was the case for me, where I had played it on, I initially played it on PlayStation and I wanted to play it on PC. So I bought it again and I was able to get it all. It was nice.
Anybody who bought the original game. Street Fighter V was notoriously bare bones on launch and didn't even have an arcade mode, a staple of fighting games, until an update put out 2 years later. And another 2 years later, Capcom released Street Fighter V Champion Edition, which
I haven't played a Street Fighter game since I was playing arcade games at like the roller rink or something like that. It's been a long time since I've played a Street Fighter game or even thought about playing one, if I'm honest. Yeah, I liked Mortal Kombat. I thought Mortal Kombat was better because it was Street Fighter, but insanely gory. You could rip people's spines out. So that's, you know, it's the same thing, but with one more point in fatalities. Thanks for making my game so much better. Your setups have helped me in the one bar. So great for people like me. Hey, glad to hear it. OSC lady, glad to hear it, man. Did I play Duke Nukem? Yeah, dude, I love Duke Nukem. I played Duke Nukem on N64, on PC. Duke Nukem 64 was really fun because you could co-op it with a friend, and we went through the whole game, found all the secrets as we went through. Oh, it's good times, man.
Bundled the original game with all of the DLC fighters and stages. The names for these later iterations can get extremely convoluted, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix is a remake of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is the 5th iteration within the Street Fighter 2 sub-series of the larger Street Fighter game series. Little known fact, this game was then followed by Ultimate Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix Pro Game of the Year Edition Magnum.
Is this real, dude? Is this real? I mean, it's sad because I feel like it probably is. Is this
version 1.224744871139 ellipses Premium Definitive Edition featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series with extra teeth whitening, final mix
okay,
for real. Like I mentioned before, at the end of the day, game companies gotta eat, and finding ways to monetize a game after launch is a great way to guarantee consistent revenue. But goddamn, some of y'all just don't seem to get full. But you know who else gotta eat? That's right, ya boy. This video was sponsored by Brilliant. Brilliant is the best way to learn math and science in an interactive manner. It's an online learning platform that aims to make these subjects more accessible through intuitive hands-on exercises in place of traditional lectures.
Do you think that someday, like people are gonna start learning online, like as much or more than they do, like, you know what I mean? Like, right now you have to pay so much money for like a good education, especially over here. And you could just put one great teacher online and they could teach like everybody. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense that it's so expensive. We have ways to distribute that information to like everybody and bring the costs down. Yeah, we're already there. I mean, the technology's there, but like still people like go in and sit in a classroom and sit in a lecture or you know, they sit in like a community college classroom where there's like a professor or like some massive professor at some big college campus, some university, you know, that they could easily just be watching on a screen in their community college, right? They could get that same level of education or the same quality, if you want to call it that.
As a STEM major, I have a lot of passion for math and engineering, but I've never been particularly fond of textbooks. Luckily, Brilliant presents mathematical concepts in a way that appeals to my gamer brain. Reading a dozen chapters in a college textbook, I sleep. Learning through guided problem solving with interactive visual aids, that I can get behind. The website offers thousands of lessons with new exclusive content added every single month. The lessons engage you by allowing you to visualize concepts through simple yet effective graphical tools that illustrate each subject's core idea.
ChatGTP taught you how to code? Really? That's going to be the weird part, is like when you can ask the internet for help with your homework. You know, I remember getting stuck on math problems in high school, you know, and I'd be doing something, you know, and I just couldn't figure it out. It was just, okay, well, I guess I just won't get this answer right on this homework assignment, and I'll have the teacher help me out with it or something after the fact. But being now, like, sooner you're just going to be able to ask ChatGPT to explain exactly how to do it and why, you know, what you were doing wrong. That's crazy, man.
Environment where you can just focus on learning and not worry so much about making mistakes. But it's not just for STEM students. Brilliant offers everything from the very basics to advanced lessons, making it ideal for anyone who likes to learn but just isn't too fond of the classroom setting, or even professionals looking to brush up on their math skills. To get started for free, visit brilliant.org/nasu or click the link in the description. The first 200 of you who sign up will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription.
Cyberpunk.
Fuck up, samurai.
We have false promises to make. Cyberpunk 2077 had to be one of the most disastrous launches of any game in recent memory.
Pretty much. I mean, as far as like backlash goes, I can't think of bigger backlash than Cyberpunk's launch. But they've seemed to have redeemed themselves. Like, people seem to be genuinely enjoying the game now. Like, and it's super positive reviewed on Steam now. After, yeah, you're waiting on the DLC. I think I'm gonna go back and play it after the DLC too, because I started it and never finished it. It was running fine on PC though. Like my experience, I ran into a couple glitches, but nothing major. After a year to get their shit together. Yeah, I'm just glad they didn't give up on it because it was such a cool game. It was such a cool idea and such a really, really interesting world. Yeah. Fallout 76? Fallout 76 was bad. That's true. That was really bad too. Was it worse than Cyberpunk? I don't know. Yeah, they were both pretty rough.
When it came to game development studios, CD Projekt Red was everyone's golden boy.
Yeah.
With nothing but a single game series to their name, they were able to build up their reputation and propel themselves to the forefront of the industry. The Witcher 3 would go on to win nearly 300.
Yeah, they were untouchable coming into Cyberpunk. Like they could do no wrong. Everybody assumed nothing but the best of them. This wasn't a studio that would release an unfinished game or promise something that it wasn't going to deliver until Cyberpunk released. Yeah.
100 Game of the Year awards, more than any game that ever came before. CDPR could do no wrong. So when they announced an ambitious new open world action RPG with genital customization, everybody went crazy. People took entire weeks off from work to free up their schedules in preparation for the game's release. Fans were treating Cyberpunk like the second and third coming of Jesus. There isn't even a third coming, but if anybody could make it happen, gamers believed it to be CDPR. And in late 2020, the game...
I don't know how much of the excitement was because of the genital customization. You know, I'm just saying. I think that was a pretty small piece of the puzzle.
Game finally released.
Where's my car? Oh. Is this game worth it? Does that answer your question?
Half of the promised features never made it to the final release. The other half made it and barely functioned. The game was unplayable on last-gen consoles, and on PC, you need 5 NVIDIA 3090s cooled by jet turbines to eke out a stable 30 FPS. Fans were furious. The backlash was so bad that Microsoft and Sony were forced to give out refunds, with Sony removing the game from their store entirely. 2 years, some class action lawsuits, and several roadmaps later, and the game is in a pretty stable state. It's returned to the PlayStation Store and consistently hovers around the top 50 most played games on Steam. Like No Man's Sky before it, Cyberpunk managed to redeem itself and regain the trust of players. But people don't want a redemption story. They just want the demption.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It was, I feel like it was a lesson learned. I feel like it was a, what do you call that? It was a, you know, it was a signal that all the other developers saw though. When you saw CD Projekt Red get absolutely annihilated the way they did when they were untouchable in everybody's eyes, you know, hopefully it was a good warning symbol and a good reminder to wait. And it could even be why games like Starfield got delayed, you know, when they otherwise might not have. Nobody wants to be the next Cyberpunk after what they went through.
That's not even a fucking word. Off in the distance, EA saw the shitstorm surrounding the game's release and said, I need to get in on some of that. So they shamelessly copied CDPR's homework, the false promises, the hundreds of game-breaking bugs, even the title format of a portmanteau followed by a 4-digit number. And 1 year following the release of Cyberpunk, EA dropped Battlefield 2042.
Dude, all of these skyscrapers have no collision at all. I'm slamming into every single... Oh, there we go. That one works. Okay, that one works.
It was damage control time. Only Battlefield fans were a lot less forgiving. Today, 2042's average player count is dwarfed by even that of Battlefield 5, the previous game in the series released 3 years prior. Like clockwork, just a few weeks after 2042, 343 Industries drops Halo Infinite, only the content is anything but infinite. It was open world with a free-to-play multiplayer because that's just what games do these days. The game would launch with only 10 maps and was missing series staples like campaign co-op and the Forge mode. These features wouldn't be added.
Campaign co-op was the best part about Halo when it first came out, man. I remember playing the first Halo with my brother. He got it for Christmas, and we stayed up like all night playing the first Halo together. Good times, good memories. Definitely, it's sad to see like these franchises move away from co-op. You stopped buying Halo when they removed campaign co-op? Same, yeah.
Until a year later. So what did fans get to hold them over before the live service game devs started live servicing their games? 2 maps, some belly button lint, and a slap on the ass. At least they didn't forget to include the store on launch. That's something you can count on. No matter how incomplete these games are on release, you bet your sweet bippy the microtransaction-filled moneymaker is gonna be ready day one. But 343's corporate greed is nothing compared to that of Activision Blizzard's with their launch of Overwatch 2. Sorry, give me a second.
Overwatch 2. I mean, to be fair, the losing connection on the launch day of the game, they were being like, it was like an intense DDoS, right? Right. So, no, wait. Why does that sound wrong? They were getting a massive attack, right? So it's I don't blame them for that. I think, was it light on content to be called a sequel? Yeah, but not being able to like log in that day, like there's nothing, like there's only so much they can do on launch day when they get DDoS like that. There's only so much you can do. What about Warcraft 3 Forged? That would have been a great game to bring up in here. That one was bad, and it's permanently bad. They still haven't fixed that one. But they redeemed themselves with Diablo 2 Resurrected. That was a phenomenal example of how to do like a remake or a remaster. That was amazing. Wasn't launch day, it was the first 2 weeks. I don't think it lasted 2 weeks. Definitely a couple days, but maybe I'm wrong. And I played it recently, actually. I just went over to a friend's house and we land Overwatch 2. It was a lot of fun now. I had no problems, but I don't know. Yeah. I have a friend who helps work on video games, and he shed some light on why a lot of developers opt into selling cosmetics. Oh, yeah? Because it makes money?
There we go. I never played Overwatch 1. Competitive hero shooter just wasn't something that appealed to me. Aside from just
Fair.
a handful of titles, I don't play a lot of multiplayer games. But when I heard that Overwatch 2 was going to have a brand new PvE story mode, that piqued my interest, so I downloaded it and oh, it's not in the game yet. Okay, well, the game is...
Yeah, this was really weird. I don't know. I don't understand why they insisted on like launching it without its like key selling feature. Like the whole reason they made it 2 instead of 1 is because it was going to have this big PvE system, and I think it's still not there. Is it not? It's not there yet. Is it? Only thing he doesn't like is selling heroes because it's not fair. Like, yeah, locking heroes behind content. Yeah, it's still not there. Yeah.
It's free to play, so I might as well give it a shot. Funny, this looks a lot like Overwatch 1. You know, I'm a bit of a weeb, so I want to try that new hero Kiriko. I wonder how I unlock her. Oh, it's one of these. The new content, aka the 2 part of Overwatch 2, wasn't in the game, and the Overwatch part was now the same game with updated microtransactions.
Daily playtests and feedback have given us confidence that we're creating something you're going to love. At the same time, we want to get the game in your hands soon.
Nah, you mean you want to start lining your pockets soon. Overwatch 2 isn't a sequel. It's a monetization overhaul patch. They promise you new content, announce that the new content is postponed indefinitely, then release the game without the content under the guise of early access. Early access to what? The cosmetic store? Studios release unfinished games simply because they can. The option to patch it later is always there. So there's really no incentive to stop them from putting out a working...
I enjoyed it. I played it a couple weeks ago. I really enjoyed it. As far as like my enjoyment of Overwatch goes, as far as my enjoyment of like first-person shooter multiplayer games goes, I thought it was a good time. I like that they moved it down to 1 tank. There's a lot less shields, a lot faster paced battles now because of that. So like I like the changes they made in Overwatch 2. Like I think they made some good changes. All of the like monetization stuff, you know, aside, which I don't have a problem with all of it, but definitely I like less tanks in the game.
Progress to start profiting as early as possible. They could easily just delay the game and only drop it when every feature is complete. I have no problem waiting for a game I want to play. Your favorite game gets delayed, you go and complain in a Reddit thread. I see game delays and I get bricked up. We are not the same. But more development time doesn't necessarily mean better games. Final Fantasy XV spent 10 years in the oven and still somehow came out half-baked. Not even everyone's beloved Elden Ring was safe. It was delayed but still saw a ton of issues on launch. The game was riddled with performance issues on PC, and you could start most quest lines, but once you reach the latter half of the game, all of the NPCs collectively went One NPC had to be patched into the game entirely. Gotham Knights dropped on next-gen hardware, capped at 30 FPS with PlayStation 2 ass.
He's talking about all these problems with Elden Ring, and I'm like, I didn't have any problems, and I realized it's because I waited like a month before I played it, and so it was like a polished game by the time I played it. I forgot I didn't play it at launch, and that's like whenever you see like a massive open world game. It's the sad truth is that you know this. You make a conscious decision. Like if you're going to play a massive open world game on day one, you're going to play a buggy mess. Period. That you're just kind of accepting that nowadays, right? Like it's kind of like if you play Starfield on day one, it's not going to be the same experience as playing Starfield 1 month after it launches, right? It's going to be a much less frustrating, probably a much smoother, right? It's going to be play tested by millions of people at that point. Yeah, and so Todd Howard's features are wonderful. Yeah, it's just the truth of the matter with those games that are that big. That's, you know, they're never fully tested like they need to be.
Water physics. The Callisto Protocol was basically we have Dead Space at home. Modern ports of older titles don't fare any better.
I was so sad to hear about this one being so bad on PC because it was the people that made Dead Space, which was an amazing game. But then they sold out to EA. So EA owned the rights to their baby. And so then they left EA, right? And then tried to make their own again. And then they went and made like an awful port to PC, which is tragic. I was really rooting for them to do well in this game. I hope that they sort the performance out and that it has a redemption arc as well.
Better. Last year, Persona 4 Arena dropped, and we were promised rollback netcode. Not at launch, but eventually. Eventually, months later, we got rollback. How's the player base looking? Oh boy.
110.
Persona 3 just got ported to modern platforms last week, and to rework the visuals of this 13-year-old PSP game, Atlas just AI upscaled all of the backgrounds. Brilliant. I'm sure that looks perfectly fine, no visual artifacts or anything. It definitely wouldn't have looked better if you just upscaled the native resolution to a bigger screen. Does the blurry ass text on this calendar say P3 or P7? Find out next time on an episode of Dragon Ball Z. Every piece of game audio, from the dialogue to the music, has been compressed so many times it sounds like a walkie-talkie recorded another walkie-talkie that was playing a recording of another walkie-talkie that recorded a PSP playing the original game audio while buried 20 feet underwater.
Story is in danger. Here's a chance. Let's get him. Get back here, you son of a...
My ears.
That's not edited.
That was awful.
The game just sounds that crunchy.
That was awful.
Calls this a remaster, by the way. During the 2022 Game Awards, before everyone's favorite game developer came through and swept the show, Bill Clinton. Square Enix announced that they'll be releasing a demo for their new next-gen title, Forspoken, for the PS5.
Did any of you guys play Forspoken? Anybody have any? I heard the reviews for it. Looked like a gorgeous game, but I heard nothing but like not great things about it. Walkie-talkie, yeah, it did sound awful. You could hear what he was talking about. Forspoken, unspoken, yeah. So nobody here played it. Everybody heard bad rumors and didn't buy it. All I heard was that it was pretty. Dialogue was pretty cringy and bad. The dialogue seemed pretty rough. Yeah.
I'd been eyeing the game for a while, so I downloaded the demo and gave it a shot. Most people complained about the corny ass dialogue, but that didn't bother me. I didn't exactly have big expectations for the writing of a game with an isekai premise. And if we're being honest, Square Enix has never really been known for their dialogue.
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the man?
What did bother me was that the game handled like complete cheeks. Every action had extremely noticeable input lag. Combat was
Oh
janky,
gosh, really?
auto aim was abysmal. Spell swapping felt clunky, the worst grappling hook known to man, and the open world was pretty to look at but was entirely devoid of anything interesting. The game felt more like an Unreal Engine tech demo than an actual game, but it actually wasn't even developed in Unreal.
I think that we're going to see that a lot, actually. I feel like we're going to see this a lot coming up here. And then over the next like few years, we're going to see so many beautiful, beautiful Unreal 5 games. And instead of like, you know, instead of it being an actual game, it's just going to be like a mess. Can you get the link? Yeah, I'll spam the link here in a second. It's just,
It was made.
I think this is going to be a
Luminous
common thing
which is the same engine used
because it's so easy to make a beautiful game. Yeah.
to make Final Fantasy 15. Oh, wait a minute. This makes a whole lot of sense. Some folks excuse the issues with the game by saying this is only a demo and not reflective of the final game. My guy, the game drops in a month. That month came and went, and now
What the hell? Oh my God, no way. Yeah.
the craziest thing is that when I went to uninstall the game, I noticed an
Yeah, that's the worst when you get access to the open beta of a game like a month before it's supposed to launch and it's a disaster and people are like, "Oh, it's beta. It's fine. This is why they have a beta." It's like, dude, this beta was an advertisement. It was a month before launch. It wasn't actually for testing the game. If they wanted to test stuff, they would have done this like 5 months before the game launched.
icon telling me that one of my friends had
Yeah.
already pre-ordered the game, which was interesting because I knew this to be categorically bullshit. And on their profile, it said that I had pre-ordered the game too. They're literally lying to you to make the game seem more popular than it is. But all of this is nothing compared to the true villains of the games industry, Nintendo. Hey, let me see that game you've been working on.
How's he gonna vilify Nintendo? What?
Perfection. Release that shit, nigga. This is a real quote
What?
by Shigeru Miyamoto. But I'm not talking about Nintendo. That's gotta wait until the next video. That's right, this video is in early access. The Nintendo content isn't dropping until Season 2. Here's the roadmap. Follow my socials for live service updates and subscribe to secure your Season 1 Battle Pass.
This was by Nasu. It's called the State of Unfinished AAA Game Releases. Fantastic video, actually, really good video. Really enjoyed that. If you want to watch it or share it with friends, there it is. Make sure to go ahead and give it an update and a comment if you like that thing. Help it out.